Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you my top 3 favorite schooling baits when those fish start coming up. They're wolf packing, busting that small bait in the fall time, and they can be really finicky, really tricky to catch. I got 3 baits that are going to help you catch those fish, so stay tuned. All right, so let's jump into it. It's fall time, it's the middle of September, and these fish are starting to really group up, school up, and they're chasing that tiny bait all over the place. You know, you'll see them come up schooling, and if you're within casting distance, it's a great opportunity to put some quick fish in the boat. Especially for me as a tournament angler, it's something that I've seen happen all across the country. We get into certain situations, certain areas, and you know, they're just on that little tiny 1.5 to 2 inch bait, and it seems like you can throw everything at them and they don't want to bite it. You know, they'll literally be jumping and schooling all around it. So, you know, for me, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle to really find, you know, 3 different key baits that I have confidence in that I can capitalize on those situations when they arise, you know, because let's be honest, it's not something that you're going to probably go win a bunch of tournaments doing, chasing schooling fish, because more times than not, they're not, you know, the biggest fish in the lake. But you can definitely catch those key fish to help you fill a limit out, because this time of the year, fall time fishing, it is not easy to go all over the place and just get bites. So maximizing on these schooling opportunities is a big deal. So first, let's look at where these places are going to be at, you know, and honestly, I have seen them come up schooling all over the place. Backs of pockets, out on the secondary points, out on main lake points. So the biggest thing is figuring out, because there's a lot of change going on in the fall. Like in September, the water is cooling. I know it's dropped here on the Tennessee River 4 or 5 degrees since last week. So that's a major cool down from being in the 80s. So figuring out where a lot of that bait is it still out on the main lake? Is it starting to push back into the creeks? That's where you're going to start to find these schooling fish at. And once you figure out where most of the bait is, you know, you can kind of see the activity. Once you're around bait, once you're around, you start seeing a bunch of bait balls on your graph, or visually you'll see the bait start, you know, flickering the surface. Those are prime areas for those fish to start coming up schooling. Now, given that situation, I'm going around, maybe I'm fishing just down the bank, or I'm fishing a grass edge or whatever. The first bait that I'm gonna have laying there is my Berkley Drift Walker. This thing, it's very slender. You can see, you know, it's obviously got 3 treble hooks, which is a plus. You wanna have as many hooks on these things as possible, because let's face it, they come up and miss it, and they miss it a lot. Having as many hooks on it as, you know, if you can have 3, you wanna have 3 over 2. For me, that kind of mimics that smaller bait forage instead of like your typical spook style bait that's kind of, you know, it's probably twice the width of what this one is. So this is the first thing that I'm gonna have laying beside me on the deck, and it works so awesome. You guys gotta watch this footage that we just shot earlier this morning. The colors, they got all kinds of amazing colors, but I really like to keep it simple. Now, I keep dang near all the colors in my boat because they can be finicky, they can, you know, certain situations, but chrome is really tough to beat. The color bone is my second option. If it's really sunny and blue skies, I'll go for transparent colors as well, or this chrome. And it really just depends on the day. The biggest thing for me is figuring out what they'll actually eat. So people will say, oh, it's cloudy, don't throw chrome. Don't throw chrome in the clouds, you'll throw bone. Well, they were biting the paint off of this chrome and they wouldn't touch bone. So I don't know what the deal was. I wasn't gonna ask any questions, but they were eating the chrome, heavy cloud cover, even a little bit of rain, but they wouldn't touch the bone. So just having a couple basic colors is going to really cover your spectrum on figuring out what they're going to eat. So chrome, bone, and some type of translucent color is really going to do well for you across the board. So big player, that Berkeley drift walker, for sure catches fish, and it catches a lot of them. You can tell by the footage, you know, getting those fish fired up when they come up schooling. Getting them to commit to it is the hardest part. So like I said, I've gained a lot of confidence in it. Now, we've had situations where I've thrown that out there and they come up blowing up around it and they don't eat the drift walker. Well, now what do you do, right? And what I've found is going to this little bullet pop. This thing, you look at the size of it, that matches that forage perfectly. Like you can't get any better for the size of it. So this is a Bullet Pop 60, and I throw it on a bait caster. I should probably be throwing it on a spinning rod. I like using a bait caster though for topwater situations. If you don't feel comfortable with that, because it's light, but it's not as light as what it looks, if that makes sense. So I can cast it with a Zeta reel, high-speed reel, 30-pound braid to a mono leader, but casting it out there and really getting it, you think typically you would work this slow, you know, chug, which you can do. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely do that. But I found speeding it up, you know, and you gotta vary your retrieve. Don't get me wrong. Figure out what they're biting that day. But for me, even today, I've caught them where you're twitching that thing almost just like you are the drift walker, where you're trying to walk it, and that thing's just chugging, chug. And they don't really get a good look at it. All they know is it fits their profile of what they're chasing right then. So that's been my backup. It's really mopped up a lot of fish that weren't committing to the drift walker. And I really like throwing topwater first at those schooling fish when they come up schooling or whatnot, because I feel like the bigger fish are going to come out of that group and eat your topwater. Can you catch small ones? Absolutely. But instead of throwing a swim bait or drop shot or something like that, I want to throw my, you know, a topwater in there, and I feel like that's going to deliver the biggest bite, the biggest bass to come out of that group and eat it first. At least you hope. I feel like, you know, I've caught 2.5, 3 pounders. Haven't caught any giants, but 2.5, 3 pounders in a tough tournament scenario would go a long ways. And, you know, I had fall tournaments last year where I was hoping to catch a 5-fish limit, where, you know, using these baits this year, I've come to the conclusion that I could go around and get multiple bites, multiple keepers in the boat doing this stuff. So, like I said, topwater first, just to generate the biggest bite possible. That's the Bullet Pop 60. Last but not least is an Underspin. And this is just got a Berkeley Power Swimmer on the back of it. It's a 3.3, you could put on a 2.8, would really fit that profile really well too. But I like throwing that Underspin because it gives it some flash, and I'm not just slow winding it through it. I'll throw it out there past where they're blowing up. And like I said, this is my last resort to get those fish to bite, to get them to trigger. I'll throw that out there, and I'm gonna kind of keep it near the surface of the water. You can use a 3/8. This is a 1/2 ounce head, so I could really cast it far. Probably a 3/8 would work. You could throw it out there though, but you don't have to burn it, but you wanna keep it moving so they don't get a good look at it. And that flash is really gonna mimic, you know, the bait that they already have corralled at the surface. So that's definitely, I've caught a couple key fish on that as well. What I've noticed though is we'll catch smaller fish on that swim bait. Again, you're getting it around the entire group, and you can have anywhere from 6 inches, 12 inches or whatnot, and then you got 3 pounders mixed in with them. But again, that's a good cleanup hitter for those situations, and you can throw a bunch of different things in there. These are just my top 3 confidence baits. You could throw a fluke, you could throw a drop shot, you could throw a Ned rig, you know, anything that day to get those fish to trigger, even a small spoon. But I've just found that these are my top 3 confidence baits, and I'm gonna go through the setups real quick with you guys I'm gonna go back to the drift walker. I got this on an Abu Garcia Revo EXD reel. It is an 8-to-1 gear ratio, so a fast reel to pick up that slack, and it casts really, really well for these top waters. Maximize your casting distance is a big deal. Staying as far away from those schooling fish as possible, you know, so you're not getting up on them and spooking them and whatnot. I have that on 30-pound Berkley X5 braid, and I run that to a leader, a mono leader, and I know there's gonna be a lot of people, you don't have to run a mono leader. That's just what I do. I run about a 2 to 4 foot mono leader, 15-pound big game. You know, guys run straight braid, and that's perfectly fine. My thing is I don't have to retie this very often, and when I'm out on the water and I'm walking this thing, and you'll see how well this bait walks, that the braid will get caught in the hooks when you're retrieving it or on the cast. And when you're dealing with a situation where schooling fish are present, you can't afford to make a bad cast or have those treble hooks get fouled up, because you are missing a very important opportunity to catch a fish. So I like running that mono leader just for that reason. And I also feel like some shock absorption when those fish eat it, and that initial pull and hook set has that little bit of stretch that mono delivers to help fight them in. Because let's be honest, straight braid and treble hooks, you can tear holes in their mouths, even on a soft rod. I have this on an Abu Garcia Fantasista Premier. It's a 7-foot medium. It's a really, really soft rod, you know, but it's parabolic bend, so it can load up really well. And that soft tip allows me to cast this bait really far. So you can run a leader, you don't have to run a leader. Whatever your preference is, whatever you're comfortable with, that's what you gotta go with. On the bullet pop, now I threw this together the other day, and I actually really, really like it. The setup, I have this on an Abu Garcia. On a winch rod, it's on a shallow crankbait rod, 7-foot medium. So it's really, really, it's a really, really light rod. But I'm throwing this little bullet pop that, you know, it hardly has any weight to it, and I'm able to really launch it out there. Like I said, you can definitely throw it on a spinning rod if you're not comfortable backlashing or whatnot, but I was really surprised, even throwing it into some wind, of how well I could cast this thing. Got that on the Zeta reel by Abu Garcia, 8-to-1 gear ratio, same braid setup, 30-pound Berkley X5 braid to that 15-pound mono leader. Again, all preference, you can do what you want. But yeah, I've caught quite a few fish just on this setup, made for a shallow crankbaits. It works for this little topwater bait, so perfect setup for that. And last but not least is the Underspin. I have that on the Revo MGX 6-4-to-1 gear ratio, just to not overwork that bait, not be going too fast. And I actually have this on one of the old Veritas rods. It's on a Frog series. It's a 7.6 medium heavy, soft tip, but it's got a stiff backbone for those swim bait bites that, you know, once you feel them eat it, that dum dum dum, you're not pulling it out of their mouth, but by the time you set the hook, you know, and I've only got this on 12-pound Berkley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. So making a long cast, you got to have some backbone in your rod to be able to deliver that hook set with so much line out. Really, really like that setup. That's something that I've thrown on the Great Lakes to down here in Tennessee to all over the country on swim baits, small or big. I really like that rod, so that's a good setup for that. So if you guys are dealing with finicky fall bass, be sure to check out those baits. I'll put the links in the description below to them. If you like this video, please subscribe. We're still going to be coming out with more content the rest of the year. If you like the video, please like it as well, and be sure to leave any questions or comments below. I do my best to get to all of you guys, so I appreciate y'all for watching. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next time.